So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for making the time and all showing up on time. I appreciate it. We're just going to jump right in. I'm going to start with the city update as usual. If anyone can't hear me at any point, just give a shout or something like that. So first up on the city update, free leaf drop-off events are going on right now. I'm sure a lot of you have been navigating maybe some swampy intersections. That's because leaves get caught in the sewers. So leaves that are dumped, blown, or left in the street can cause localized flooding. Public Works will be hosting a weekly leaf drop-off now through December 4th. So if you have leaves, tell your friends, they can bring their leaves in for leaf disposal needs. These events will facilitate proper debris disposal, and they will also be collecting food donations for area food pantries at the same events. So you can visit beavertonoregon.gov/leaf disposal to learn where those drop-off locations are, details, dates, etc. Next up, the Beaverton City Library has announced the latest One Book, One Beaverton title for 2022. So if you're planning on participating in that, that book is The Cold Millions by Jess Walter. And there's a series of events going on around it. So you can learn more about that at beavertonlibrary.org/onebook. Next is the winter shelter is opening for the season as of today to provide warm, safe space for adults experiencing homelessness. The shelter is a collaboration between the city, Just Compassion of East Washington County, and Washington County Supportive Housing Services. This season, the shelter will provide space for 30 adults on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis, with access to resources, showers, hot meals, and a safe place to sleep. The shelter will open today through Tuesday, March 15th, and we'll be following COVID-19 precautions for guests and staff. More information available at beavertonoregon.gov/shelter. If you or folks that you know are looking for a way to support the Beaverton Winter Shelter this year, drop off needed supplies at the community center on December 1st from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. The top needs are razors, earplugs, blankets, hand warmers, shampoo in those little small bottles, socks, underwear, waterproof gloves, and frozen or non-perishable food. Next up is Open Air Beaverton. The First Street Dining Commons has been extended through winter with a new layout for weather. A grant program is being assessed for the Open Air Beaverton program to help with costs associated with new permit programs that begin in November. The new permanent permit program allows businesses to use expanded areas as well as structures and tents in some places. Because the city wants restaurants, recreation, and other professional businesses to operate in a health and safe manner while providing services during the pandemic. And the last announcement is a belated welcome to Councillor Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg, who joined the City Council in October. And I'm just going to read a little blurb from Ashley's message to community members. She says, "I am honored to serve my hometown through this role on City Council. I look forward to creating policy that will help further our housing needs and ensure people in Beaverton have shelter. By the year 2030, our world may look very different than it does today, and it already looks quite different than it did in 2010. I hope to push us to take bold action as a city when it comes to climate change. I can't wait to hear from you and encourage you to connect with me over email or by phone." So yeah, that is the city update. So next up is the minutes approval. The minutes have all been posted online. So now at this point, I will ask if anyone has any questions to the minutes as posted, or if we can go ahead and approve them. So speak now. All right, I will take that as the minutes stand approved as posted. So I'm going to share my screen now. So give me a moment. Can everyone see that? It says city update, right? I see a head nodding. Okay,
Yes, I can see it. Thanks.
great. So oh, I gotta move some faces out of the way here. I got a lot of little windows open. All right, Turner, I can see you. So if something comes up, just wave at me or something.
Okay, well,
So,
just really quickly, I'll say that Syed is saying that his video won't start because it says it was stopped by the host.
oh, okay. Let me look at that real quick.
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. I'm doing double duty tonight.
Double duty.
On tech support. Participants. Syed. Asked to start video. Should work now. We'll see.
There he is.
Excellent. If anyone else has a problem with that, just let me know. Okay, so now I need to get back to my notes. All right, so last month, we just kind of want to, this month we want to revisit where we left off last month. We had some great discussion around with the planning team around the housing options project and land use. And we really wanted to use that as kind of a springboard for conversation about the Climate Action Task Force's role, and specifically how information gets to you all, and then what you all do with that information to perform your role in advising council. So that's what we're going to dive into tonight. Turner's going to share some insights from some of his assessment interviews so far with city councilors and department heads. And then I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about information flows, which try to contain your excitement. And then we're going to be working in small groups, giving you a chance to all talk to each other a little bit, bouncing around some of these ideas, and then having some larger discussion after that. But first, I wanted to give you all kind of a look ahead of the next couple months, just so you can kind of see how this is hopefully all going to fit together. So everyone can still see the sharing screen. Yep, okay, great. So this month, this is what we're going to do, like I just went over. Next month, we're going to move into goal setting and some priorities and focuses through some exercises that we all do as a group. We're also going to begin talking about leadership and the idea of kind of a leadership team and how that can come together for the selection of group leaders in January. And we'll also next month be having a presentation from the Community Vision Committee. And then in January, we'll be working on leadership selection and then workshopping some ideas and kind of taking the priorities that we came up with in December and forming them into more of a work plan for the coming year. And then in February, we've been invited by the Bicycle Advisory Committee to join the first half of their meeting. So unless anyone has any major objection to doing that, we will move our meeting conveniently to the 17th of February rather than the third Monday, because the third Monday is President's Day. So we will join them on February 17th for the first half, and then we will break off and they will have the rest of their meeting and we will have the rest of our meeting. And hopefully we'll have another presentation from probably the recycling and solid waste team. And then one more thing I wanted to introduce is that I think it would be nice, instead of just always hearing from me during these next couple of meetings or who's ever coming to present, that we kind of introduce this idea of member-led little 5-minute like climate 101 talks. Like we all come from different backgrounds and have different exposure and levels of knowledge to different things relating to this work. So I thought it would be great if each week, or I'm sorry, each month, someone could volunteer and just give a 5-minute little talk, and then we'd have a 5-minute little discussion about it, just kind of as a little warm up and to expose folks to new ideas and just kind of get the conversation going. So if anyone wants to volunteer to do that for December, January, or February, please just send me an email and then let me know what it is that you want to give a little chat about, and we'll put you on the agenda. So now we just have one more administrative thing to do about winter meetings here. So I am going to attempt to use the poll feature here and ask you all if I just want to verify that everyone will be able to attend on the 20th of December, which is when our next meeting is scheduled. I know things get busy around the holidays, the week of the holidays beginning. So just if you can answer that quick poll, that would help. And then I will go into the rest of the slide. 8 responses so far. And just answer kind of to the best of your knowledge right now. Is everyone seeing the poll? I see 10, 11 getting there.
I can't find it. This is Rhaven.
Yeah, I can't see a poll either. This is Qasim. Sorry.
Do you mind verbally weighing in?
Yes,
I'm
be able to attend.
available.
Me too.
Excellent. Okay, so we've reached kind of critical mass, I would say. If anyone can't make it, just please let me know. So we will plan on meeting on December 20th as scheduled. And then January, also our meeting will fall on a holiday. So we are going to shift our meeting date to, this should say the following week. So I will be in touch with everybody about shifting the meeting date in January. And then in February.
Kevin, was it the week before? It says the 110.
It says 110 because the other option is 127, and then we'd be meeting with the Bicycle Advisory Committee on 217.
Right. So we're moving it up ahead a week.
Yeah, that was
okay.
The plan, as long as that works.
Okay.
And then in February, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna meet on a Thursday evening. So I'll send out all the details on all this. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up because it's kind of jumping around. And then in March, we will be back to normal for the third Monday of the month for our meetings. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Turner for a few minutes, and he's gonna share some information with me. Turner, you want me to just leave these slides up? You can just tell me when to go to the next one.
Sure, yeah, that would be great, thanks. So good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody. So part of what the city asked us to do in helping get get this task force underway, in addition to helping plan and facilitate these first few meetings, was to take some time to interview the city leadership, both the city council, the mayor, and 3 of the department heads. And so I've been doing that. In fairness, I will say that I'm not as far along as I'd hoped to be due to some confusion over scheduling and and the week of vacation that I was on just last week. So that complicated matters a little bit. But I've gotten through about half the interviews, and there are some emerging themes that we thought would be worth sharing with everyone, just to give you a feel for kind of what the city leadership is hoping for from this group, and their thoughts about how it can best do its work, and what would be valuable to provide to the city from this group. So with that, let me share a little bit about what I've been hearing from both the city council members and the department heads. Okay, next slide. So I asked them basically three questions with some add-ons, but basically asked them what their vision was for how, for the task force. How can the Climate Action Task Force help the city of Beaverton reach its climate goals? Where can it add the most value? So that was the first question, and I heard quite a bit on that from everybody I talked to. So these are some of the major points. One thing I heard quite a bit was to focus on the plan, that there is this plan, and there will be great value in having this group really take a good look at it and figure out how to start to implement that in the most effective way. In particular, helping to prioritize actions. There's, whether that means identifying kind of low-hanging fruit, or whether it means identifying the most important things in the plan, regardless of whether they're easy or not, or whether there's some other criteria you want to apply in terms of their sort of equity impacts or other factors. Other folks noted that there are components of the plan that are focused on consumer actions or information flowing to consumers, and that this group is uniquely suited to help advance those consumer-directed or consumer-aimed components of the plan. Folks said new ideas sort of off the page are welcome, but it would be ideal to tie them to the plan in some form or another. So all that said, there were others who said, think big, think out of the box, don't be limited by the plan, and bring these new ideas, if they're important enough to bring them forward to city council. So a little bit of both, really a strong interest in advancing the plan, that there was a lot of work that was invested in the plan, and there's a lot of good thinking in there, and helping to prioritize that, because it is a huge kitchen sink full of ideas, that this group would be well suited to that, but don't necessarily be completely limited by that. Folks talked about the voice, like how your voice can be best heard. And my main sort of query on that was whether this is a group, like a focus group, like 16 or 13 or 16 voices, each offering their own thoughts, or whether this is a group that comes together to create, collaborate amongst itself and reach conclusions and develop group recommendations. And almost completely agreement on that it's most helpful and be most effective if this group works to develop joint recommendations and advice from the group. I think that's not a surprise to all of you. That's what you expected in joining this. But just to be clear, I wanted to see what folks thought about that. And I asked them a little bit about sort of not so much how, but what should be communicated to, and how what sort of relationship the group might have with city council and with city departments. The city council is the primary focus of this group, in terms of how it was structured in the resolution that created it. And folks noted that City Council has a lot on its plate, so the task force really has to be focused and deliberate about how it engages with the City Council. City Council wants to be active on climate, some folks observed, but really is unsure, sort of what, where, and how to do that best, especially given that the plan is very large and very complex. So that folks felt that the council was looking to this group for advice on how to move forward, and that puts you in a really powerful position in a sense, because the council is looking for advice, and you are positioned perfectly to provide that kind of advice. So that was really an important message that folks had, and part of that messaging to City Council relates to the city departments. Both everyone, or most folks that we talked to, both departments and city councilors, recognize that you have a unique opportunity to help City Council or help city departments prioritize their work with City Council. So you can help when city departments are looking for budget and resources to do work related to climate above and beyond what they might normally be getting. Your voice may have an important role in helping them get those resources and be able to do the kind of climate actions that the plan anticipates and that you all are prioritizing. Let's see. In terms of how to develop that relationship with city departments, a lot of people observe that this is a real-time engagement opportunity for departments to kind of, as they're evolving programs, to get reactions and insights into the climate effects and what they can do to make their activities or projects or whatever they're working on more climate friendly. They also, so that's kind of them coming to you. They also welcome the idea of you bringing ideas to them, but being aware and being willing to listen to the challenges that each of these departments face in terms of how to make simple actions that a homeowner, for example, could take to change their behaviors, to change what, the types of equipment or whatever they're using. That's very different when you're trying to do it on a commercial scale or a municipal scale, and that they really want you to listen and understand what that takes. Not that makes it impossible, but just that there are going to be different challenges and different constraints than in the sort of consumer individual behavior kind of situation. But again, they were really happy to think that this group can help raise the awareness about their opportunities to do climate action work with City Council, especially during this kind of budget funding cycle. So that's a place where everyone agreed that you can have some important influence. And I think I sort of already addressed the funding budget. Yes, thank you. Process-wise, so how, I asked them questions about how best can the task force accomplish these goals? How best can they interact with the departments? So, for example, sort of the mechanics of it, in terms of mechanics, that some folks use the example of, I think it's the way the Diversity Advisory Board works, but they get this kind of the mechanics of how you do your work. They get very detailed packages of materials in advance of meetings with discussion questions, and group members arrive. And there may be some overlap. Some of you may be on this committee, so you already know this, but they come prepared to have sort of a real-time discussion and make their recommendations based on that all in real time, rather than spreading it out over multiple meetings. So that was one suggestion. They also do subcommittee work, I think some of it between meetings, but often they'll devote the first part of their their similar 2-hour monthly meeting to subcommittee work, and then convene the group in a plenary form to go from there. So just some ideas people threw out about how this group could do its work together. In terms of communicating with the city council, oftentimes commissions and boards deliver an annual report to the city council, and that's the extent of their communication. Almost everyone was in an agreement that that was not sufficient in this case, that you should be more engaged with city council on a more regular basis, keeping the topic fresh in front of them. That may involve things like issuing reports that you develop with perhaps with the help of staff, or from within your own resources, with evidence and research or whatever it is that you're trying to convey. Another suggestion was to invite council members to come to these meetings, 1 or 2 at a time. Obviously, you can't all come because then it would be a council meeting, and you can't do that. But just some ideas for how to engage city council in terms of communicating with city departments. Everyone thought this was a really important aspect, of not specifically talked about as much in the resolution that established the task force, but still very important, especially keeping departments and up to date and kind of aware of priorities in the climate action plan, especially if this group starts to do that. They really want to make sure that they're understand where the priorities lie, and that they're able to do work consistent with those priorities. There were a couple suggestions made. Either there's department head meetings, I think every month or maybe week, I can't remember, but the point was, they said maybe every quarter a representative comes from this group to kind of give a quick 5 to 15 minute brief on what this group is working on and what the priorities are, what the hot topics are. Also, is important, a number of people noted, to work with the new city manager, who I think is still getting going, really, a fairly new position of the city. And but at some point it'll be important to engage with them to find out how best to interact, because they're sort of the gatekeeper for the departments. And then there will be likely to be assistant city managers that are brought on, one of which will be your sort of main, again, another main contact with city departments. Let's see. Yeah, and then the departments said the department heads shared they were pleased to have opportunities to meet with the group, in both directions, sort of learning so that you can learn what they are doing and the things that they're doing that are already, and the things that they would hope to do, as well as for you to offer ideas to them and to get feedback on those ideas about how they might or might not be able to do that. Subject matter, it's kind of all over the place, and I think we'll have more of an opportunity to talk about that in future meetings. But again, the consumer directed pieces of the plan were a lot of sense that was a great place for you to have significant influence. Raising the visibility of the climate action plan generally, because there's a sense that the public as a whole is not super aware of that. And one of the specific goals of this group was to be a conduit back and forth and help raise awareness about the climate action plan, and bring concerns both from the public back to the city council and vice versa, and taking, helping educate the public about the plan. There was someone I observed that climate is really important, but is rarely urgent when it comes to city government. There's always something that's, fire to put out, metaphorical fire, hopefully. But that it's important to help departments figure out how to incorporate climate action work in the way they're already doing things that's less resource intensive. So it's something just to kind of keep in mind as you all are looking for priorities, is finding those ways to help the city function It's a big business, right? And there are lots of little actions it can take that can end up having a large effect without having a huge resource drain on the city. One suggestion was to build a climate lens toolkit. So much the way the Diversity Advisory Board is thinking about developing an equity lens toolkit. So a real sort of hands-on way that departments or city can function effectively in that regard. I think that really hits on most of the key points and probably used up most of my time, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about kind of what we've been hearing or clarify anything. If anybody has any questions.
No questions? If no questions, I will proceed.
Great,
If you have
thanks
questions,
everyone.
just come off mute if you want. All right, well, we'll have time for discussion afterwards too. So if something comes to anyone, we will talk about it then. I'm gonna jump into, and some of this might cover on what Turner talked about a second ago. But I know we had some discussion at the end of last month's meeting about topics of focus and how the group receives information in order to be able to offer information. So I wanted to revisit that before we do the discussion groups, where hopefully we can have people start talking about how they're going to tap into these different areas. And kind of look at both in terms of what you want to work on and the information you'd like to receive as a group. So we've looked at this a couple times, and I'm just going to go over it one more time about the role of the group and how it's written in the resolution. So the role is to advise council, right? Act in an advisory capacity to the city council. And so I've just pulled out in blue, just some paraphrasing, enhance council awareness of community perspectives, assist in devising strategies to include climate action considerations in the decision-making process, and provide feedback on the potential impact of policies, programs, activities, etc. So one other thing is just, I mean, this is very broadly written, and the subject matter is obviously enormous, right? So in order to effectively perform that role of advising council, I think it's important to look at how information moves about and maybe identify some efficiencies that can be tapped into. So that's what I'm going to spend the next few minutes doing. And the idea is to kind of recognize the challenges in the subject matter size and in the logistics of deliberating on all decisions, and the impossibility of providing feedback for all projects, and also in the added risk of getting into the weeds on many different topics. And I'm going to try to present it as an opportunity to maybe improve the decision-making process rather than focus on individual decisions. Maybe that'll, I don't know. I'll see if it makes sense when I explain it or not. Personally, I think it's helpful to see the information flow. So I'm gonna try to do that here with a slide. So everyone can see that. So what we have here are just some main components, some different players and whatnot, and we're going to look at how information moves about. So the top, the citizens, including you all, right? So citizens provide, they elect city leaders. So there's that input there, and then it also, you all are citizens, part of the CAT force there at the bottom. and you all hear citizen input, hopefully, and incorporate it into your role here on the task force. City Council then, they come up with council priorities and policy. They direct the city manager who works for them, and they also weigh in on projects and programs and initiatives and whatnot as needed. Those council priorities and policy that they develop inform the work of city staff. The city manager directs department staff work on projects and programs. And then those projects and programs, like last month with Rob and Anna, when they came and talked about the Housing Options Project. This would be an example of a project or program that then provides information to the Climate Action Task Force. Occasionally, maybe we'll have external partners also provide that information. Maybe PGE will come and talk about something to the group, or very often, in nearly all cases, external partners also weigh in on projects and programs. So there are several channels at your all's disposal. And so we'll start with this blue one here, which I'm going to call the project channel, right? So this is direct project feedback. This is like last month where we had a discussion with staff and you all provided feedback to strengthen their project or provide input to it. That's just one project feedback back and forth. In order to get the viewpoints of the task force into that work, it requires that you talk to the project. We meet 12 times a year. How many projects can we talk to, right? So just keep that in mind. The next channel is this purple channel here. So this is about getting information back to the community. Like Turner said, one of the things that he was going over is how well positioned this group is to kind of highlight the work that the city is doing and to be a bit of a champion for that work, or just let people know what's going on. Maybe sometimes we don't always do the best job at letting people know what's going on in the day-to-day work of all of this. So that's that purple channel. And then citizens can exert their influence on city council as they do through advocacy, civic engagement, etc. And then finally, we have this gold channel. And this is information directly to council, which was spelled out as kind of your all's mandate on that previous slide to advise council. So this channel arguably maximizes the efficiency to influence the decision-making process, right? Because once you advise council, now you're at the top of this structure here, and then that information can then flow down without having to talk to every project, right? So it kind of creates these loops here in order to carry that advice and that influence throughout the process by going on a kind of a one-channel route. So I don't know, maybe that was helpful. Maybe you're all sitting there saying, Kevin doesn't know what he's talking about. But we kind of want to use some time after the break. I think we have a break scheduled, right, Turner?
Yes, we do.
Right,
We're running a little ahead of time, so if folks have questions or anything, we've got time for that. But
so maybe we'll go through what we're going to do, and then we'll take the break, and we'll come back and go into the breakout rooms. So what we have now is the opportunity for you all to talk to each other after the break, and to learn where each other are all coming from and get to know each other a little bit better, which will help down the line with the leadership selection and stuff. And we'd like you to discuss these different pathways for receiving and providing information and ideas about how to tap into them. So we're going to have 3 rooms. We're going to have 3 rooms, and we're going to do 2 rotations So halfway through, we will switch to another room. And depending on your room, we want you to discuss engagement and information flow to and from either City Council, which will be discussed in room 1, city staff, like projects and programs, will be discussed in room 2, and the community will be discussed in room 3. When you get into your room, we'd like you to select a facilitator. You'll be in a group of like 4 to 5 people. So select a facilitator and a note taker. Can be the same person if they're very efficient, can multitask. If not, you can break it up and have 2 different people do it. And then when you go into the second room, you're gonna do that again. And don't make the same person do it again. Just that way we can hear from different people when we report out. And then we've got one more slide, which I'm gonna let Turner explain this one. And then we'll talk about if we're gonna take a break or just keep going.
So for each of the different audiences or folks that you will want to engage with, we wanted you to think about 3 questions, roughly speaking. What are your best opportunities with that audience, either for learning from them or sharing your thoughts with them or changing behaviors, if it's in the case of communicating with the public, for example. So what are your best opportunities? What are the greatest challenges in communicating with that audience or in affecting behavior at that level? And any thoughts you might have on overcoming those. And then kind of overall, what are the best strategies for success with that audience? Now, I'll post those hopefully in some coherent fashion in the chat. But the goal is really to come out of the conversation. It's really to get you all talking about how you're going to do your work and where you're going to find your greatest effect. And so the goal to come out of that conversation, of each of those 2 conversations that you'll have, is with anywhere from 1 to 3 kind of ahas, like what floated to the top, what was an insight or something that you came away with from that conversation. And it could be anything having to do with all this. It doesn't have to flow directly from one of those questions, but and then when we come back to the full group after the second round of breakouts, we'll kind of share out those ahas from each of the groups. So there'll be 2 folks that share about city council, and there'll be 2 folks that share about city departments, and there'll be 2 folks that share about partners and the public. And so, does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have questions? It's a little complex, multiple breakouts. All right.
I'm gonna stop here.
Well, we're gonna take a break first, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put everybody into the breakout room, so maybe just kind of take a break if you need one while I'm doing that, and then something will come up on your screen, and you can pop out into your breakout room and start the process. And Turner and I will bounce around and pop in on you as we do this.
Maybe if you don't, sometimes it's best
I will be right back, Kevin.
Sounds good.
Okay. Oh, still a few folks. I wonder if Rhaven is able to enter the room from an iPhone. You're muted, Kevin.
It looks like she figured it out just now.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah.
So it is 6:50. 6:52. And how long do we want them to
Yeah.
be in the rooms for?
I would think
15 minutes?
8 to 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay.
8 to 10. I mean, this one has sort of a soft beginning because it was kind of a break. I was going to suggest maybe I guess as you assign them, they see it. So
Do you think we need to pop in and make sure?
I would. I mean, I'm going to just in kind of see if everyone's. Oh, we didn't put the things in the chat. I wanted to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Let me do that.
I think they can see it when they're in the breakout room. That's a good question.
I think so. Let me hold it up here somewhere. There we go. Yeah, broadcast message to all. Or is that chat or no? No, it isn't.
Where did you get that from?
On the breakout room pop-up.
Elijah's here. He was running late. I got to put him in a breakout room.
Okay.
He's supposed to go into room 1.
Okay.
Hey, Elijah, can you hear me?
Yep.
We are doing some breakout rooms right now, so I'm going to pop you into a breakout room. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Did you paste in the chat, Turner?
I'm working on it here. There we go. I have to make this a little bigger so I could see it. There we go.
Oh yeah, I think we need to use that broadcast to all button.
I haven't sent it yet. Let's see.
I'll just also do it through the broadcast for all, and they can see
Okay.
it either way.
Okay. You want me to do that, or are you going to do that?
I just did it. I just copied
Okay.
your message.
Okay.
Let me know if you want me to put you in a room.
I think I can. Oh, maybe I can't go. Yeah, let me drop. How will I get out? Oh, then I think I can just exit the room.
I think you can just leave, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to go to?
Well, I'll have to start with room 1. How about that?
Room 1? All right. You're back. You're muted.
That's so funny. I wasn't muted over there. Yeah, they were into it. They're doing great.
Great.
Group one is on it.
I was afraid to join a group because I felt like I should stay in this space. Do you want me to
Okay.
send you the room too?
Yeah, let's do that. And it's one with city council, two is city departments, right?
Projects and programs,
Projects. Yeah, okay, great. Okay,
Back.
back again. They were going pretty good too. Well, not quite as deep into it as group one, but
So it's been about 10 minutes. Do you want to visit group 3? And then,
yeah, I'll visit them real quick and then we'll,
I mean, we've
yeah.
got time. We're ahead of schedule. So
yeah. Well, let's give them another minute or two. That and then we'll bring them back. Yeah,
all right, I'll
and
send you
I'll go.
room 3.
Yeah. Okay, maybe give him another minute, Kevin.
Okay, yeah, I'll send him a message that says, one more minute.
Actually, when you, yeah, when you end the group, then they'll get another minute. So just
Is that how
FYI.
it works? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you end the group, they get 60 seconds to, they get a little countdown.
So I won't send them anything.
I think you could just end the group and it'll say group's ending in 60 seconds.
Did group 3 seem like they were at an ending point?
They had a question about, one of them had a question about, Rheanna had a question about sort of whether they could reach out to others. I didn't fully understand, but I said, right now this is blue sky. Think about whatever you want to do. And then as a group, you'll figure out what your best strategies are.
Okay. It's going to take me a second to put them into the second breakout room so you can entertain the group while I do that.
Okay.
59 seconds.
Yeah. And they can start coming back at any, once you send that message, then they can start coming back. When you put them back into when you put them into the next group, do you do it like one person at a time and then they can go? Or is it you set them all up and you push a button and they all go at the same time?
I set them all up and push a button and then
Okay.
they get a notification that says,
Okay.
Sure.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Well, I'm encouraged nobody's come back early. Nobody was standing there with nothing to talk about. So that's good. Oh. All right. Oops. Yep. Welcome back, everyone. It will take a moment or two for Kevin to put you all into the new groups. There's no quick way to do that. So it'll take him a minute to do that. While we're waiting for that to happen. So you'll now go into a different group. Some of you will go back into, some of you will be with the same people, but everybody should be in a different room in the sense of having a different topic. So remember, group 1 is City Council, group 2, City Departments, Projects and Initiatives, and group 3 is the general public and partners, external partners, and how to engage. And the questions should still be posted in the chat, but we'll post them to the breakout rooms again as well.
Turner, can I ask a
Rebecca.
quick question? I know these are supposed to be publicly recorded. When we're in breakout rooms, how does that work?
Breakout rooms are not publicly recorded.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so
What will be publicly reported, I would point out, is when you come back and you report out for the breakout room. So that's how we capture it in the record. So.
all right. The room should be open. If for some reason you wind up in a room that you were already in terms of the topic, just come back and let me know. But you might be seeing some familiar faces.
All right, we'll give them a couple minutes to get going, then I'll drop in. So it's 10 after on the nose.
We have until 7:45 or maybe longer, depending on if anyone else for public comment.
Yeah, so we're still running kind of a few minutes ahead of schedule, so that's good. More or less as the sort of within the breakout group schedule that I kind of worked out. So
we wanted about 25 to 30 minutes for group conversation. Is that the plan?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
20, I figured 20, and that includes the report outs, which I think will be pretty brief, but may prompt their own discussion.
Also 10 minutes. Let me know when you would like to head to a room.
Okay, yeah, I just give a couple minutes to get going so they have to pick their own reporter and all that. Also, I want to remember to address Reggie's comment that was in the chat about we gave him feedback, which is true, we did not, but that was really kind of we took advantage of an unexpected opportunity early on to kind of hear about work that's going on. I think we would posture future visits differently and have them be set up and more in advance, and so people know what's going on. And
Yeah.
and if there's go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, if they feel as though they didn't have a chance to provide feedback, I mean, we can certainly, that was the first time, as a learning opportunity. Now we know.
Right.
We can, if the project has questions, specific questions, we can talk about the questions, and then the group can have questions as well, their own question, or just an open feedback
discussion. Right. Well, and if we get sort of in the model that I mentioned that was suggested in the interviews, to have more advanced materials so people are actually a bit more up to speed going into the conversation, so that they're better prepared to offer feedback in a more traditional sense. So, all right, why don't you send me off into group one and we'll see how that's going.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. It always mutes me when I come back here. They were doing well. They were discussing the changing dynamics within city government and how new commissioners and new city manager and everything was sorting itself out, and what the opportunity was there, or challenge, or both.
Okay, good.
So yeah, definitely good stuff. All right. Throw me at group 2.
Right. Where did you go? Move to room 2.
All right.
You're muted.
I didn't even have to say a word in there. They were so busy talking about it. I just kept my nose out, waved.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Drop in on group 3.
All right, that's fun.
Oh, it's you that are muting everybody. That's why I keep coming back muted.
Yeah, there's a setting when you come back from breakout rooms, you're on mute.
No, okay. All right, well, they were doing good too. So
Great. So it's been about 8 minutes. We'll give them another 3, and then I'll click the button, or 2, and I'll click the button. You just let me know.
yeah, maybe 2 and then click the button.
All right, I'm going to give them the 60 seconds.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Good job. Seemed like all the groups I dropped in on, which were all of them, we're having pretty robust conversations, so that's good. So what we'd like to do now is have the recorder for each of the groups report out on one or two or three, whatever came out of the group, you know, kind of main takeaways and aha, something that felt important coming out of that conversation. So I thought what we would do is we'll go through, there should be two folks for breakout room 1 reporting and two folks for breakout room 2 and two folks for breakout room 3. So we'll kind of just go through in that order and hear from each of you. So does that make sense, everyone? All right, mostly nods. Very good. So let's say breakout group 1, the first breakout group 1. Who is a reporter from that?
Hi, sorry, I think oh no, I'm 2, aren't we 2? No, never mind, not me.
Well,
It was me.
It was me.
Right, group 1 was
Okay.
council, so that was us.
Great.
There were
Yep.
4 or 5 of us in that group. And so I'm going to look at my other screen, so I'm not ignoring or looking away from you all. So we were talking about challenges and opportunities and strategies for talking with council. Just time, finding the right time to approach was of course challenging with the competing priorities for council, as we talked about with in the group of 4 breakout rooms. And so we kind of, from that idea of competing priorities, we talked about the need to be selective with our information given the restrictions on time, and to really come up with a really solid engagement model, which was both kind of a challenge, you know, in itself, but also was going to be kind of an opportunity in itself as a chance to really engage successfully with council, probably also with staff, but our mission in this room was council. And we talked about, I think the phrase we used, I have written down here, is an aura of accountability, the need to be choosy with both the topics, but also the way we present our information to council. The idea of presenting information in a particular way to sound fact-based and informational based as opposed to anecdotal, and that in terms of opportunities, the presence of new leaders with new energy is itself an opportunity for us. And that's kind of our 3 main bullet points.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. What about the other group 1 reporter or breakout room 1 reporter? So again, city council communications.
I think that was me since I was the note taker. So
Okay.
I feel like we had a good conversation about that. If we're going for like main takeaways, I think we we feel like we need some more clarity around the level of authority as far as city council goes. If there are people that are responsible for specific projects within city council, and then also if we'll know in advance as the climate action task force, if there's any relevant agenda items that'll come up on the city council meeting agendas that we would need to know about ahead of time. And then knowing the city councilors and knowing like where our best support will be within city council, if there are people that can be climate champions that are open to our ideas and, you know, willing to work with us.
Great. Perfect takeaways. Thank you, Maggie. All right, group 2, shifting for the moment to city departments, projects, initiatives. Should be 2 reporters. Who is the reporter from the first set of breakouts?
That would be me.
Okay, Stephen, thank you.
All right, so main takeaways we got, because one of the things that was brought up that I specifically thought about was, so after we had that interaction with the last initiative or department that we had spoken with about the affordable housing, I had some questions that came up later that I didn't necessarily have in the moment that I got through talking to people. So a thing that we brought up was if there was a possibility to get some sort of like Google document or like a consolidated list of like follow-up questions and things we had, just so we could be, again, like concise with the questions we're asking and who we're talking to, as well as just have it be a little bit more formal of a process, because I think there is a lot of ambiguity that we don't really understand about, like, how do we reach out? Like, do we do that? And also, are we asking maybe redundant questions, things like that? And another thing that we had brought up was maybe having like formal people, and they don't always have to be the same ones, but like when we get those like concise questions, having like someone who would be comfortable to like go to whoever we want to discuss with and like bring things up again to help with like not wasting people's time, and again consolidating the questions and making sure they're not getting the same question twice or a similar question just asked in a different way, things like that. And then the last thing we kind of talked about was how exactly do we establish the like communicating outside of the formal meetings, if that's possible, and how best to do that so as to not, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but I do remember there was something about when we had all those law agreements about like what we can discuss in the outside of the meetings and what's like a no-no, things like that.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. All right. And then from the second set of breakouts on the group 2, Katie, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
All right.
So we talked about a couple of different things as far as opportunities. A couple of the opportunities were like, how can we kind of inform the staff about projects that are maybe undergoing, but make them give kind of information on climate action that they could take with projects that are already ongoing. And one of the big things that we looked at as one of our best opportunities is what we already have, really, which is the plan, right? So we talked about letting it be our guide to understand what is already in progress, what is already something that city staff is focused on, interested in, aware of, et cetera, willing to work on. So we thought we would use that kind of as our, I know we already talked about that, but we specifically talked about it as regard to communicating with staff, because it's something that the city really has invested in. And some of our greatest challenges, we thought, were that we need to learn the structure better of maybe city government. And we know that we mentioned that, Kevin, of course, you can help us with that, but a lot of us, myself included, we're not always aware of necessarily all of the different boards and staff arrangements that carry out the business of the city. And so we felt like we needed just a little bit more information about that, who to talk to, and if the people that we're talking to are the right people that have decision-making capabilities. And finally, we thought one of our best strategies for success here is to really focus, that we felt that we could very easily get overextended and want to do everything. And that's not something that we're capable of doing. So we thought one of the things that we need to do is understand that our role is advisory, and, you know, kind of don't take it personally if some of our projects or ideas are not implemented, but also understand like what our limitations, essentially, what our capacity to do as an advisory task force. So I hope I represented our group well.
That's great. Thank you. All right. And finally, the third, the number 3 breakout rooms. So the focus on public and external partners. Who is the reporter from group 1?
I am.
Great.
Now I think I'm right on this one.
Okay.
Okay, so ours was within the community and like our partners. So our first thing was that it's important to have a presence and kind of be strategic in what that information is that we're presenting. So the presence, such as like being at the right spot for whatever information we're trying to convey, whether that's a farmer's market for kind of how to change your lifestyle to be more climate focused, versus, you know, potentially having QR codes on things on like little bulletin boards at the library, or having signage that stays in front of your house, just with helpful, quick, like a link or a QR code where if people are just walking by in the neighborhood, they can get more information on whatever it is we're trying to give them. Additionally, we thought it was important to not only have that presence, but also have a desired result or kind of action for engagement that we're seeking there. So, you know, what is it that we want them to do with it? What that we want their response to be? So like, do we want you to go call the mayor? Do we want you to take this survey? Do we want you to come to our meetings? What is that? What's the best way to communicate that? And where's the best place to put that out for the people to see it and engage with it? And then the last thing was kind of defining community and figuring out what that actually is. Is it, you know, just, is it people within our community? Is it partnering also with local businesses? Is it partnering with other climate organizations that are within our area? And kind of what does that look like? So kind of figuring out what our community is, and then kind of going from there back to like, what's our presence? How do we want them to engage? And how do we put the information out in the right way?
Great. Thank you, Rheanna. That was a great summary. All right. And from the second round, group number 3 reporter.
That's me. Kind of just to piggyback on what Rheanna said was we thought a best opportunity would be to reach out with, like she said, climate groups or other organizations that already have that sort of focus. And maybe a good strategy for that would be to, if there's a list of organizations that the city already has contacts with, that would be helpful for us in reaching out to organizations. And then if we wanted to put together some sort of criteria for assessing whether this would be a good partner for the task force to meet with, and that way we're not spreading out to too many groups that may not be giving us the best results in those type of terms. We felt one of our greatest challenges might be getting the word out to the community. And so we kind of explored what our options were, if we were going to be able to present topics for the city to post about on social media platforms, if we can have space in the city newsletter. And we also thought about how can the community contact us back, and Rheanna mentioned surveys. If there's an intake form that we could put up, or a contact us link on the city website. I'm sure there's already kind of a contact us link up there, but something maybe a little more prominent for people to be aware that it's out there. And then another concern we had, and this echoed in our other group, was how we would like to come up with a way for us to be able to communicate with each other outside of meetings so that we can actually get some work accomplished in between meetings, but without hitting that quorum mark.
Great. That was all really great takeaways from those conversations. And we've tracked that. Are there anyone else from any of the other, who weren't reporters per se, have other thoughts or takeaways that they brought away from those discussions they want to share? Or any reactions to what you heard from the other groups? Where do you think you need to go from here based on all this? So you've got a lot of information tonight about kind of what some of the expectations and or hopes were from the city leadership. You got a sense from Kevin about kind of how information flows. And then I heard quite a bit of discussion in both when I dropped into groups and in the report outs here about different strategies or the need to sort of put together strategies for how to do both interactions with city council and with the departments and then doing outreach sort of in the other direction too, out to the public and external partners.
It kind of sounds like we need to figure out a way to meet outside of this without reaching quorum. Maybe that's like the next big step for us. And also it would just be like really great to meet and talk a little bit more with all of you.
So that was actually part of the strategy tonight, was help you guys get to know each other a little better and interact with each other on topic. And so for a couple of reasons. One is that in the next couple of meetings, over the course of the next couple of meetings, you're going to need to select a leadership group that will help plan meetings with Kevin in the future, or with staff in general, and then chair and lead your meetings, and then sort of do some between meeting work to make sure things start to happen. And as other groups are doing, you can form subcommittees. I don't think there's any problem in forming subcommittees that address some of these sort of denser work topics and then bring that work back to your plenary meetings, which have public notice and all those sort of things. You wouldn't have a quorum at the subcommittee meetings, as long as you don't make them the entire group. And this subcommittee work also happening at kind of this in a smaller group size, you can get sort of a lot more done than with a group of 13 or 16 people all at the same time. So
I can share the list of contact information amongst this group if everyone is fine with that. I think I'm not sure if I have already or not. And there's no problem at all meeting outside of the group and discussing these things. It's just, you can't meet as a majority. You can't have quorum, otherwise we have to record it. Otherwise it's a meeting. So you just have to keep that in mind and be careful that if too many people join your meeting, then you got to say, we've got to bring this up at the next official meeting rather than in the side meeting.
And there is once you sort of have the infrastructure together amongst the group, some leadership, you can at a meeting like this, for example, you could say, okay, we need a subcommittee to between now and next month work on XYZ, and you get 4 or 5 volunteers, however many there are, and then that group can communicate amongst itself to decide when it's going to meet, and do the work that it needs to do, and then bring that back to the full group. In terms of transparency and also just bringing the group along as a whole, because among the things we heard from both the folks that I've interviewed and from conversation amongst yourselves is that the desire to develop more consensus-based kind of messaging from the group to city council or to city departments. And so bringing the subcommittee work back to the full committee and or full task force, and having then the task force digest it, discuss it, adjust it as need be, and then document it as a recommendation or position or whatever it may be. You can create a pretty effective process to bring things back to the meeting. So your meetings are all about hearing what your subcommittees have been doing and then taking action as appropriate, whatever that action may be. So part of talking next month about leadership will be kind of revisiting the operating principles. And I think that you can work with that structure to kind of identify how this process will work, and then also be doing some prioritizing issue-wise, and we can help you sort of think through some of that and decide kind of what your next steps will be in both procedurally in terms of how to work, and then what items you might want to take up early on here.
There's some activity going on in the chat there, and I think Rebecca, I think that's a great suggestion, and I think that will feed very well into what we're planning for the December meeting of kind of whiteboarding some of these ideas and then grouping them and working towards a prioritization. So I think a little bit of homework would be in order, yeah, for sure, of taking a closer look at the climate action plan and what resonates with you and what resonates with those in your community that you're in contact with. And yeah, I think that's great. If we have a few seconds, I have a couple of comments or questions on the report out. I think we sort of covered the how to communicate outside of meetings. I'll share that information. And then another question that was asked was about, was brought up, was a challenge of learning the structure better. Is that something that you all would like maybe to dedicate some meeting time to and an explanation? Or I can provide that as like written information or point you to resources that you can look at outside of a meeting, and then we can kind of have a Q&A on it if more detail is needed. Maybe we'll start there rather than dedicating time. Okay, I'm seeing nodding, so I'll go with that. If anyone feels differently, please feel free to just write me an email or a note or call me outside of after the meeting or tomorrow or whatever, and let me know. And then one of the other things, just a final question, it was mentioned in the council room group, more clarity on the level of authority. And I just wanted to get clarification on what that means. The level of authority of council or the level of authority of you all, just so I can properly answer that at a later
I think specifically, Kevin, we were talking about city council as it relates to mayor and then city manager, and like you showed us a chart earlier, but just as far as like who gets the final say, is that, city council? Is it city council after it goes to the city manager and then back to city council? Or if you could just maybe clarify that a little bit.
Great. I will do that for you by the next meeting. I don't want to speak out of turn off here with improper information.
I also wanted to circle back to earlier before we went into the breakout groups. Reggie had a comment in the chat about that suggesting that we didn't actually have an opportunity to do feedback on the housing options project at the last meeting, and that's true. It was a sort of a mostly one-way information event with some opportunity for questions, and that was really an opportunity that we took advantage of, that because it sort of knocked on our door, and this is all a learning process. So I think part of what we're taking away from this is that in the future, when if a city department project or initiative comes to us, it's important to understand what the context is. Are they wanting feedback? Because we might want to give them some feedback, and just to be prepared and have a structure for those kind of interactions, so that expectations on both sides are clear. So yeah, Syed.
Yeah, so I think to that, it would be really effective if we can find a way to define that engagement and then figure out, because what would be helpful is that it doesn't become that if just because we have a program or a project come and speak to us, that it's like, oh yeah, we ran it by the Climate Action Task Force and they kind of gave us their seal of approval. That's, that wouldn't be accurate representation. That would, right? Like, and we really need to create a mechanism that, again, goes back to that verbiage that Rebecca highlighted, which is this, like, accountability, establishing that this is how it is. And we need to create some rigor in that process. And we need to come up with what those standards are. And we just don't want to, like, let anyone take advantage of that. That's something to call out.
Right. I think it's important for both this group and the groups or parts of the institution, the city that you interact with, to be on the same page about what is happening and what the outcome will be. Absolutely. All right. How are we doing on time?
I think we're right on time.
Okay.
We're getting better at this. So now comes the portion of the evening for public comment. Public comment and participation from the public is an essential part of local government meetings. If there is anyone from the public that is wishing to speak or make a comment, they will be given the floor for 3 minutes. And just as a reminder, this time is time for the task force to listen to the community and take their comments into consideration, and not necessarily a time for back and forth dialogue and answering questions on the spot and stuff like that. So listening and absorbing and hearing from the community, and then we can follow up as needed afterwards. So I believe we have, looking at the participant list, there is one member of the public in here this evening. So I will now give this opportunity for them to come off mute and ask a question or make their comment.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Turner, and thank you all the members of the Climate Action Task Force. I'm Damian Hinman, and I've been in a few of these. I had to miss last month. I just want to mention briefly, Kevin, that I didn't see the recording up for last month's meeting as of this meeting, but I haven't seen the video. Was there one?
Yeah, there's a video, but it's been a little bit slow to get posted with some staff constraints and whatnot. But the video will be posted in the archive. Hopefully when this video is posted at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Also, I've restricted my comments in the last few meetings because it's clear to me that you're all undertaking Herculean challenges and frankly frustrating process.
Whoop. I think we lost him.
Also, I want to, well, I haven't had to say very much because you've echoed a lot of my thoughts and concerns, and so Stephen and Jennifer's and Maggie's and everyone's idea about needing to be able to have more time to collaborate outside of the meeting here without breaking meeting laws. I'm going to echo that, and I'll just leave it there for now. Except for I will say that I hope that this public comment time would be a de facto monthly engagement of the public. I hope that it could be a little more maybe advertised, or maybe bring other people in, even if you have to bring friends or something. It's nice to have some company out in the public public forum here, and it's a little lonely sometimes in the breakout sessions. I appreciate everything you're doing with the technology that we're having to work with now, and look forward to more in-person engagements for the public. So thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Damien.
you.
And Turner, do you have any
That's right.
final
Yeah, I just
comments here?
no, I think we except for since we have the opportunity, I'd like to just do what we did at the first
You're
meeting.
beeping, Turner. There's
I'm
a lot
beeping.
Someone's beeping.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, wow. All right. Maybe it's
Am
on
I
my-
beeping now?
If no one's hearing it other than me, then that's fine.
Okay, good. I don't know. I have the noise canceling headphones on, so if people are making noise elsewhere in the house, I don't always know it. I just wanted to give an opportunity for people to sort of offer up, things they like or things they would change about the meeting, like we did at the first meeting. We ran out of time at the last meeting, but it's always good to kind of check in and see how the meeting was for everyone. So if anyone has any thoughts, any pluses or deltas, as we like to say.
Could we maybe for the next meeting, I love the suggestion of bringing a couple of our like higher priorities from the climate action plan to the meeting. Would it be possible to do breakout rooms with that sort of like in a more informal way and just kind of talk to each other that way, if other people agree that that would be a good way to start that discussion, and then maybe we could bring it back to the group or something. But I did really enjoy the breakout rooms, but it felt very formal to me. So I don't know what you want to consider that feedback, but.
No, that's great, Maggie. Thanks.
Like a breakout room without guided questions, just kind of an opportunity to be in there and yeah. Okay.
And maybe topically organized, so people know what they're, or maybe an opportunity to move from a couple different topics from one topic to another. Okay. Yeah, we can work on that because we're going to do some prioritizing, right?
Looks like Reggie has a question.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. I get the sense that like a lot of us are really ready to move and really press for changes. But again, I don't want to I feel like we shouldn't rush into things too, because this is a very large topic. But if there's somehow that we can, at next meeting, start putting together ideas that are like very low hanging fruit, that are just like small things that we can start to try to affect as far as change. I'd love to start to dive right in. Climate delay is a really big issue that I see in this region, and I don't know if it affects the city here to, whatever extent, but it is definitely something that I have noticed as far as creating meaningful policies and significant meaningful changes.
Great, thanks, Reggie. Yeah, I think we're trying to simultaneously help you build some structure for having discussions and then also introducing kind of the substance, because I know everybody would prefer to talk about that than process. Katie.
I wouldn't say it's a counterpoint or a contrast necessarily to what you said, Reggie, because I totally agree with the urgency, but for me, a plus has actually been some of this time to get my head around some structure, because for me, and maybe that's my personality, climate change, and in fact, the climate action plan is so massive that I feel like if I don't have a way to contain it and to contain kind of our goals, that I'll just, for me personally, maybe I worry about spinning our wheels with how big everything is. So in a sense, I do appreciate some focus. And I really do think that with getting a leadership plan or leadership team together and some subcommittees, that I think it will feel more like we're moving more quickly. But I appreciate this time of building some of that structure ahead of time so that I feel like I have more of a guidance as far as where we're going and what we're doing. But I don't want that to feel like, let's just talk about process for another 3 years, because I don't think that's what you plan for us anyway, or what we planned for this. So I enjoyed the breakouts, and so I envision that as being like a subcommittee will be like. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I definitely agree. I know I'm speaking more from my experience. I definitely have ideas already of like specific things that I'd like to see changed. But as a whole, as a whole group, I feel like we do need to spend more time to build that consensus-based messaging. But I guess I was more speaking on like, my desire to, hit the ground running, at least from my perspective.
Yes, Rheanna, sorry. Speaking on mute.
I agree with what everybody said, and I think I would like to kind of have an idea of like whether or not we're supposed to know the subcommittees in advance, or if we decide that when we bring the topics, because I feel like those are both kind of hurdles in like progressing forward. So if we come next time and we talk about what we want to tackle within, our action plan, or like, is it trying to find one thing for each subcommittee, or after we define what we'd like to tackle, then do we make subcommittees based off of those types of projects? And I mean, I don't think we need to answer that necessarily right now, but I think those are like our biggest hurdles right now. And so I would like to, whatever we do next time, like try to at least have both conversations to hopefully get some movement there.
Great, thank you. Well, I think that takes us to the end of our time. Thank you for everyone chiming in with those thoughts and comments. We will do our best to work. I have to move to a plug immediately, or I'm going to just vanish off your screen.
Yeah, so this has been great input for Turner and I for planning the next meeting. And I recognize that, I mean, not all of the thoughts that you all have on this will come during the 2-hour session of this meeting. Maybe next week something will pop into your head, maybe tonight, who knows when. But just please let me know if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, just reach out, communicate, and we will try our very hardest to get them incorporated into the meeting content and the planning until you all have leadership in place that will then do that. So please just reach out anytime. We will see you all for the next meeting on the 20th of December. We'll be joined by the Community Visioning Committee. So having some dialogue with them will be great. And we'll be talking about prioritization and doing some exercises, as well as a bit of a intro on what leadership will look like. So have a great Thanksgiving, travel safe, enjoy, and please reach out if you have any questions or comments or anything. We'll see you next month.
Right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thanks all.